traveling through another dimension, a dimension of cyberspace and communication, a journey into an astonishing place of perception. Next stop, the Tales of Terror from the Email Void.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Emails Not Dead. My name is Eric, and joining me as always is Jonathan.
Hey.
What up? Today is a very special episode of Tales of Terror from the Email Void. It's all about that warm-up. Jonathan, man, yes. I think we get this every single day. You know, we do this every single day with our customers, and I think it's about time that we tell everybody the scary side of it. So,
right, get down to the truth. Get down to the scary part.
Yeah, because it's not
trying to be scary. Yeah.
And I know you don't handle the scary very well. That's okay. It's gonna be very PG type scary, not PG like Raiders of the Lost Ark PG. That's definitely scary, but like PG like now PG type scary, like Land Before Time.
Yeah,
it's okay.
That totally works. That completely works.
Well, right on. I am a technical account manager here at Mailgun, and my compadre here, Jonathan, is also a technical account manager. And I guess I didn't get the memo. We were supposed to dress up today, so
no, you're good. That's a great costume you got on. The cat ears are perfect. I just didn't do it. I don't got one at my house, just lying around, being able to do that kind of stuff. So next time, maybe. I got a whole year to work on it. So whenever we do anything again, next year I can do that, but right now no costume. I'm sorry, but we have this spooky black and white setup we got going on.
Yeah. Thank you, Thomas. He is our producer and marketing member that is joining us. So he's going to be helping us out today here in the shadows, giving us some thank you, giving us some feedback from the chat here section, and then we're going to be taking some questions here at the end. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Jonathan, what's up, sir? Like, what do we do? Like, where do we even start?
The warm up, the big warm up. I think that's definitely one of the things that is. It's a question that like you said, it's a question that comes up every once in a while. Not every once in a while, every day. It feels like there's something new to warm up. There's something ready to warm up. There's always new things that you want to do with warm up. So we're gonna try to break it down as best as we can to kind of get every single aspect of the warm up going, because there's a lot to talk about when we talk about warm up. It's not just one thing. It's not one simple thing. It's a lot. So let's jump into that. So first thing, domain versus IP. We know there's two different types of warm up, right? We have domain warm up. We have IP warm up. If you didn't know there were two things, there are two things. So
So like you really don't need to warm up your domain, right? Like as long as I can just spin up a new domain and we can just start. We're good.
Yeah, to go. Cool. That's where we get the scary coming in. No, we don't want to do that. Let's first jump into that part of it, right? Like we want to see what parts of it that we what can we do, what can't we do, where it all lies. So domain and IPs are two separate things. Like they should be, it should be fairly known that it is two separate things, right? You don't, you have a domain part of your sending, you have an IP part of your sending, but they both do need to have their own warm up happen. Why would you need that? So for the domain, one of those things is that domain carries reputation anywhere you send from and who you send to. And there's places that are better at tracking domain reputation. There's places that are not so great at tracking domain reputation, or that maybe don't track as much whenever we're looking at the information that's going on with that. So, we know for sure, because you even have to sign up to their tool with your domain name, and that's Google, right? Google, 100%, like they are tracking on the domain. You sign up for Google Postmaster tools, you're doing it with the domain because the domain is what counts there. And they track it. They track it very well. They track everything that's going on with it. And that's one of the things that we do see. So if you have a brand new domain that you haven't really done anything with, you registered it yesterday, you're gung-ho to send out emails. If you start sending right away and you start sending right away in high volumes, that domain is probably going to be shut down, blocked. We usually start seeing the scary things happen, right? You start getting deferrals, you start getting blocks, you start getting all kinds of listings happening with the domain because the domain is unknown. So that is enough to tell you, hey, this needs a little bit of warm up. Have you seen anything like that happen?
No, especially with Gmail, because I think most of our customers and our clients like know already that Gmail is not like 5% of their list or 10%. It's usually between like 50 and 60% of their lists go to Gmail.
Yeah.
And, I like using it like as an immature status. If this domain is immature, like how can you trust it? I mean, I know I have a little one, so I know that I can't trust her to drive a car just because she's so immature, and it's the law, actually. So if you want to think about it, essentially, yeah. So
that's
warming up, warming up is it should be the way. It should be the law. That's exactly what you have to do. It is the law for Gmail. If you want to get through to them and to their customers and to your clients that are signed up with them, you have to warm up. You have to build that rep. So absolutely, 110%. Agree.
Yeah. No, yeah. And it's one of those things. And I mean, so already I'm going to answer one of the questions that's in the chat because it's already there. And I feel like we need to dive into some of that. But
sure.
High volume. What does high volume mean whenever you're doing, sending? So high volume, it really doesn't mean a whole lot. There's a threshold really that providers will track at, right? So we know, because of Google Postmaster tools, because of Microsoft SNDS, because of the other tools that are out there, doing 100 messages a day to each one of those providers already makes you a high volume sender, because that's enough for them to track that domain and to see what's going on. If you send spiky traffic, or by spiky, I mean every once in a while you'll do some higher volume, and then maybe days of not doing it. It doesn't make you not a high volume sender. It just means that, you're only going to hit those times within certain time periods. Things like Google Postmaster tools will show you that information just on those days you hit those higher volumes, those 100 messages or more for their location. But it does mean that at one of those points, you will be tracked for that's coming through, because you are sending enough to hit on that radar, and it's enough for them to say like, hey, maybe we should pay attention to this traffic that's coming through. So it doesn't take very much, but that's a lot. That's enough to get it there. And yes, like that domain, Google specifically, yes, but every day we know that other providers are getting better and better and better at tracking that stuff. So don't let Eric's kid drive your car is basically what we're saying. I think that's the lesson that
she needs to get mature, that maturity rate, we need to get that up, so she's able to drive successfully. Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Yeah. Well, cool. Then we move on to the IP. So the IP is one of those things that we see everybody track, right? If you go on to Google Postmaster tools, you can definitely see that they're doing the IP there. If we go on to SNDS, they're tracking by the IP. That's how you pull up the information for them. So we know it's significant. We know that's one of those things that happens, right? So we just want to make sure that we're also doing it there. And man, I don't know. Have you what are the biggest consequences that you've seen?
Yeah, I pretty much the same. It's just like throttling, heavy throttle, gray listing. We don't, come back later. Yeah, that's probably like the biggest thing that I've seen. And then if you keep trying to send, keep kind of go through, you're ultimately going to get blocked as well. You got to take those throttling as just like early warning signs. They're like the canary in your kit. Man, we're using like a whole lot of like examples here, but that helps us really kind of break it down and help others understand of like these temporary failures and throttling. Those are your early warning signs. Email service providers, they're telling you exactly what it is that you're doing wrong. And if you don't listen, it's going to have some bad consequences.
Yeah, no, it definitely can. And I love that you say that. I don't know why you would go kind of morbid with the canary in the coal mine kind of thing. You said this was and that's definitely warning signs of death coming. So
well, I'm trying to keep it spooky,
Those cat ears help out so much. That's awesome. Exactly that. And it doesn't necessarily mean instant death, right? If you don't follow the warm-up plan, if you don't do some kind of warm-up on the domain, on the IPs, it doesn't mean instant death, but it does make your track or getting on track a lot more difficult, because that's the very first thing that happens, right? It's the very first thing that somebody sees. Microsoft doesn't know who you are. Microsoft, isn't keeping up with the email world or any kind of pop culture industries or anything really, right? Like we can't expect Microsoft to just like, hey, like this person has a website and a legit store and they've never sent email before, but yeah, we know who they are. Like that's not the way it works. Microsoft, Google, VMG, Verizon Media Group. Sorry, I don't want to. I'll throw the acronym later. But we want to get they don't know who we are. They don't know who you are as a sender. They don't. They only care so much. They only care so much about that, right? Like it's going to be a little piece of it. Establishing a domain, registering an website or a domain itself, really, registering that, months before you ever send with it, that's important, and it means something, and there's a place for that. But it's also establishing the reputation, right? It's a starting point of when they start seeing your traffic, when they start seeing your emails come through, and then what are they going to do with it? So we don't want to start by slamming them with everything we got. We want to build it up slowly so that they start recognizing who we are. We start building a reputation, and then we kind of get going from there. So we kind of go in when, right? When this continues on, when we start doing the warm up, when is this appropriate to do, and then what do we do? So I know we already got another question for that. So consistently warming IPs ish. There's different levels to it. So let's go ahead and break down the situations, because I think that's kind of important. So when do we start warm up? Well, when do we first consider warm up? Brand new domain, brand new IP. Super simple, right? Like it makes sense in that situation. Where that list came from, how you're sending to it. Like, it's just maybe you've never sent out an email before, and you've built out this customer list that's from years and years and years. Well, that can cause problems if you don't warm up correctly. And warming up correctly means sending to your most engaged people, maybe people that come back to your store fairly often, especially if it's like a web store. You know that they're going to be active. They're active within your storefront. They're active, maybe in other ways that they're communicating with you, but now you want to start sending a newsletter. You have the permission to send to them. Great. Send to those active people first. Send slowly first, and then we start building that up. So yeah, like that's a unique scenario. Then we also have times where the domain is unique and the IP is unique or new for both of those, because where you've been sending, you haven't been building a reputation, right? So there are some providers out there that will kind of throw you in a group mix, for sending. So if you're breaking out from that and you want to build now your own reputation, you want to build your own reputation with the domain, with the IPs, and really get going on your own, that's great. Like, more power to you. Hope that should create a very resilient domain, very resilient IP, but you've got to start correctly with it. So new domain, new IP, definitely get to that warming spot. Yeah. So do you want to go with the next example?
Yeah, no, I was thinking more like if you were just starting, like you mostly do transactional stuff, start doing just like just receipts, and now you're looking at a marketing segment, start warming up that you should be segmenting that traffic out. You could go onto a new domain, a new subdomain, or a new IP for that one also, but you're still building a list. Even though you've been successfully sending already, you're starting a new segment. So starting a new stream. So starting that out, starting slow, starting with those that you know that are your most engaged recipients, those that have been looking and opening and clicking those messages that you've been sending already, and then slowly building out to opening that aperture into your wider breadth of customers, and then after a couple weeks time, because building that reputation does take a little bit of time, but it's not a crazy amount of time. Within a couple weeks you're able to send to a 250,000 or 1 million folks, just depending on your schedule. You're able to pepper your maybe some people that you had in your list a long time ago, and then we'll talk about like sunset policies and what that kind of looks like later on. But yeah, starting out from go, you're most engaged, these people are going to be looking for your message. If stuff does get marked as spam, because that could happen when you're sending out, that they're going to be looking for your message, going and rescuing it from that spam, doing that message rescue from the spam folder, and help building that reputation and being more engaged.
Yeah. And then there's also the scenarios that really come into play whenever you're doing changes, right? So you kind of threw that in a little bit, right? Where you're doing transactional messages, maybe now you want to do, marketing type messages. And let's say, in that scenario, you might talk to somebody like me who would suggest like, hey, let's start breaking that traffic apart. And then you can start doing that in different segments where you have, maybe you're sending out of the same IP because there's not a ton of traffic going out of your IP. Your IP can definitely handle some of that. And we want to break it out to at least a new domain. So, new domain, warmed IP, you still got to follow the warm up plan that's going to be for a domain. And again, we want you to work with somebody that's going to help you out with this. If it's somebody on our side, somebody like myself who does this, we'll take a look at a warming plan to see what it takes to warm up that new domain, right? That unique domain, even if it's sending on a old established I say old in a bad way, not old, an established IP, something that's been there, it's been handling the workload for a little while, it's still going to require some warm up for the domain. And then conversely, like let's say, you have been doing that, you have had 2 domains that are doing the 2 different types of traffic for you, and now it's time to split that IP reputation, right? Like we want to make the transactional part of it, the receipts, the sending, that's going to be landing in the inbox every single time because we know that's something that they want. Well, hey, now you want to separate those IPs. It's great. You have an established domain, you have something that's sending out, but there's still a warm up that's going to have to happen for that IP. And in most cases, that's going to be a little bit faster because the different providers are tracking that in very much different ways. And you can definitely do that, right? You got a warm up plan, it's warm up the IP, and it creates a different scenario, but it's still something that requires warm up. So we want to be conscious of both scenarios, and they both do require some of that warm up time to happen. Yeah, if you get that part of it right, like it just definitely helps.
But once you get warm, like is that pretty much it? Am I going to be warm forever? Is this something like, oh, I've already done the warm up. Thanks, Jonathan. I appreciate your time. Don't worry about it. I'm already warm. I don't need to hear this conversation.
Yeah. You're good. No worries. Thanks. See you, Kat. That's why it's such a good question, right? Do we want to be consistently warming? So there's different things that need to happen with that, right? So I know the hot topic right now, the big topic, the big one that's looming, I think, over everybody's head is Black Friday, because Black Friday, Cyber Monday, we're talking about usually a ton of emails going out over these next few days, these next few weeks. And it's, it's something that happens every year, and something that people want to do. And, us from the sending platform, we want to be able to get emails out. From the recipient platform, like I know there are certain places that I'm definitely signed up to spot some sales. I'm not like I need to buy anything else, but I'm ready for it. So like when those things happen, you do have to warm up, and it's not a consistent thing that happens, and it happens all the time, and that you need to be, considering it every time. But if you're not sending traffic consistently, or you're going to be sending something that's very outside of what you normally send as far as volume is concerned, then yes, definitely you're going to have to warm that up a little bit. So, let's say, just to get some really nice round numbers, every Friday you do a marketing campaign, and every Friday you send out, 100,000 messages, where throughout the week, maybe you're sending, a few thousand here and there that are going to be the small things that are keeping up, maybe some notifications, maybe some newsletter type stuff for a certain group of people, but Friday's your big send. And, 100,000 happening every Friday. An ISP can get used to that traffic coming in. They expect that traffic coming in now that that's established. It's been sending for a while. They know that every Friday that's going to happen. And then here comes the week before Black Friday. You're like, everybody needs to know about my sale. And you send to 1 million people. That is not going to go well. Like I can tell you, we've seen it so many times. It just doesn't work sometimes, or a lot of times, because it's just something that's completely unexpected. And most of the time, these ISPs, they're trying to do one thing, and that's protect their users. And protecting their users sometimes means, hey, if you see a spike of traffic from an IP that doesn't normally send that much, or a domain that doesn't normally send that much, we're going to block it, because we don't know if that server is now compromised, if somebody got a hold of the list and is sending through stuff, or maybe there's a bot on that network that's doing something, funky and messing things up. So we don't want to do that. We don't want to look like that. So does it mean warming up? Yes. That means a lot of times breaking up that list as much as you can, sending it over a few different weeks, sending it over a few different days, sending it over multiple times a day, so that you're not all just hitting that traffic all at once. But that is definitely a time where you're going to have to do an extra warm up than what you're normally doing. Does that mean that every Friday you have to warm up to that 100,000 if you're not doing that every Friday? No, it does not mean that. It definitely creates a point of resiliency. But when it does mean that something's going to happen outside of the norm, definitely, and I do that warm up.
Yeah. We got a few questions here in the questions tab. Jesse, did you want to hit those up first, or do you want to continue on real quick? I think we got one more quick section. Or let's talk about. I know we're kind of run through a lot of these topics already, but I guess a couple of things is like the next big thing that we're talking about is that cooldown, right? Like if you have been sending, I guess it kind of goes in line with that same thing, right? If your sending falls off, if your sending just kind of continues on a downward trend, and you try to bring it back up for whatever reason, again, just consider doing that. And there's times where
getting around to the other part of the conversation, right? The sunsetting type of thing is that there's definitely times where, maybe you clean up your list. Maybe you see that you're not getting the best engagement with a segment of your sending, then cool. Like, you know what, that's okay. You're going to remove those people. You're going to sunset them. Let's remove the people that haven't opened anything in the last 6 months, or, maybe it's the first time you're doing a send of a certain kind, and you have a list that includes customers that are 10 years old now. You don't know if that email address is still active 10 years later. So maybe we need to remove them, and that volume comes down for what you normally do. That's okay. But when that volume comes down, we want to make sure that, we're cognizant of what's happening with the domain and what's happening with the IPs, because that can take a big dip. And once that big dip happens, to get it back up to those numbers, it isn't just a quick, like, let me flip the switch.
Right.
Like, especially if it's been a few weeks have passed, if a few days have passed, and it's not doing it, not much days, but more weeks, and getting into that monthly time periods where we're, if we see that slowdown, we need to bring it slowly back up.
Yeah, we just want to remain consistent. Consistency is key, and it's king in a lot of these scenarios. So just staying on that path and making any changes. Don't make drastic changes. Like Jonathan was saying, they seem spammy. So
yeah,
and that's things to be aware of. Not spooky, but spammy. The other S for sure.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Yeah, I mean, that covers, I think, most of the stuff that we kind of wanted to talk about. I know there's different things that are, that's spooky.
Jeez, Thomas, come on, man. Warn us a
Someone
little bit, brother.
Someone had to do the Halloween thing, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
I got my ears on. Come on, dude.
I heard we're doing Q&A, so that's why I decided to show up. So.
That's awesome. Man. That's perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what we want to do, because I know there's a lot of questions, and I know there's a lot of things that people want to talk about. So, and I know we didn't cover everything, but like, that's definitely, kind of like the start. This is the starting point. This is the jumping off point. The next conversation should be with, whoever you're teaming up with to do it, whether it's somebody like me. I'm just going to keep pitching it out there.
Someone like Jonathan, someone like me.
Someone like Eric.
Someone like
That's spooky.
Yeah. That was good.
Yeah.
Well, I guess let's run through these really quick. And I think this is a good beneficial one for everybody. But just to re-clarify from Christina, how many emails do you mean by high volume? I mean, So I mean, it's hard to set a hard number just because it depends on how much you're doing, but I would consider, if you're doing anything more than like 10K a week, like that's enough already that you're going to be on there, especially if it's from a unique domain that you're using as your DKIM signature domain, something that's being tracked out there. So take a look at that information. If you don't know, most of the time you can look at the return path of your emails. Once you receive the email, you can look at the return path address. If it is your domain that's signing that, that's your reputation that's on the line. So you want to make sure that that's what if you're at those volumes, check that out. Make sure that it's warmed up, or that you are warming up if you're doing that kind of sending. Mm-hmm. And then on the other end of the spectrum, so like, what is low? Like amount by day and hour?
As low as not going to be tracked, or.
Well, some of the tracking tools like SNDS and Google Postmaster tools, like for us to get feedback in there, I think the minimum is like 1,000 a day consistently for us to start getting feedback on that. So I guess less than that would be considered low.
Yes. Nice. Yeah. We're just, it's likely not going to be tracked.
Right.
For real. Okay. So here's one from Mia. Is it necessary to warm up new subdomains as well?
Yes. So, go ahead, Eric. I'll let you do that one.
No. Yeah. I mean, it's essentially it's a new endpoint that you're coming from, a new domain. You're building essentially that reputation the same. So, because it is a new point of reference, it's definitely going to need to be warmed up as well. So,
nice. And this one comes out from Robert. Is it helpful to have users add the email address to the user's address book? I've heard that I've heard that one a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of those little things are tracked, like with Gmail. All those little quirks and nuances that you do with the messages are definitely tracked. Engagement, moving the messages to a specific folder, adding users to their address book. Yes, 110%. That's going to be helpful.
Yeah, and then definitely even for the fact that if you do that, if you ask them to do that, if you just let them know where emails are coming from and where to expect those emails from, then they are doing exactly that. They're expecting those emails. If they add it to the address book, most of the time, what that does in a lot of platforms is basically safe lists your sending address, which is great. Like because that means that email will be a lot more resilient to going into the spam folder. It's going to land in the inbox more often, and then it creates that engagement piece, which is exactly what the providers care about, right? That's exactly what from Microsoft to Google to Verizon Media Group, like all of them care about that piece that you're looking at that mail, or that your recipients are looking at that piece of mail, and that's what counts.
Looks like we've got another one from Alex. If I have 50K of emails, what will be the correct way to warm up that 50K of emails?
I think it's going to be the same way, man. Like we still got to keep targeting, start low volume, warming up every day, being consistent on your sends, and then listening to that feedback. If you're getting throttling, maybe staying there at that same rate that you're sending, or throttle back. Sometimes it's, sometimes you got to take a step back to move forward. It's just paying attention to the feedback that you're getting for those sends.
And a lot of it comes down to consistency as well, right? So most of the time we're talking about starting with very low numbers and then building that up. And it really depends on how robust either your software is or the platform that you're using, right? From the Mailgun side, we definitely have tools that you can use to really start scheduling things out so they deliver in a certain way, but you have to be able to send us those things to do that. Otherwise, if you just send us like 500 emails, we'll deliver 500 emails for you. Like, we're on it. We're set. We're ready. But most of the time, that means like if we're doing that kind of stuff and we're doing a warm up, we want to do that a lot slower, right? So we don't want 500 emails to go all at once. We want to do 100 emails an hour for 5 hours. And so if you have the capability of doing that, that's exactly what we want to do, right? We want to start off pacing it out and then being consistent with that. So if we start sending today, what is it? Tuesday, right? Tuesday.
All day.
All day. At 1 p.m. Central Time. And we start sending for 5 hours, then we should, tomorrow, if we're increasing that amount of traffic and sending out again, then again from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Central Time, or 6 p.m. Central Time, we want to send out, more traffic, but still within that same time frame, staying consistent if we're going to be sending every day. And that's right? That consistency is the key. If we're only going to be sending out Tuesdays, you don't want to force the warm up to happen like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then all of a sudden you just cut off to only Tuesdays and you start going through the roof with your volume. It's going to make things a little bit more difficult, and it's going to look a little funny that things are changing so much. So we want to make sure that we're doing it right. But yes, always, 50K. Start off slow, spread it out as much as you can. That's just going to help everybody along the way too, right? The ISP will help filter some of that traffic down. You're going to be able to deliver it to the recipients, and then you're going to see that slowly build up. So we want to make sure that we go consistent.
Nice. Looks like we got a question from Chris. So for the Black Friday example from earlier, right? You'd want to send a pre-Black Friday email slowly over a few days to a week, so you can blast out the actual Black Friday email the day of or before.
So we'd want to do it. So it really depends on when you need to get that message out, right? So like if it is going to go on Black Friday, the difficult thing is that you can't just do the Black Friday send on Black Friday or the day before. Like that's one of the things that is, as much as we would like to, I mean, platforms are set up to do that, right? Like if somebody chooses to do that through Mailgun on Black Friday, like we will do our best. Like we already have like servers set up and ready to go to do that kind of stuff and be able to, at a technological standpoint, send that out. But it really comes down to what the best practice is, right? So like if you're sending to a list that's way bigger than what you normally send and what you normally send on a Friday, or even at any point in the month, then when those ISPs see that message and see that high volume, it's going to be problematic. And that's what it really comes down to, right? So as much as we want to send it all on this date, sometimes it really means just breaking that list apart, and breaking it down. Like maybe, hit some of the people up before, right? Maybe you have a few that are kind of, semi-engaging and do it. Maybe send them the week before and let them know that, hey, like this is the Black Friday sales that are going to be coming up. And maybe if they open that, then maybe you can add them to the list, but, and maybe send them a couple of days before. And that's where you can start building that list slowly coming up to the actual day, but you just don't want to go full on that day because then it can be problematic.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of people are going to be doing the same for sure.
This is a good one. What are your favorite tools for email domain health?
Ooh,
You use a lot.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, y'all do. Y'all use a lot.
I think when it comes just strictly to domain, the one that we rely on, just because it's usually a big part of everybody's list. So you got to consider how much of your list is going here to decide if this is the one that you want to use. But the one that I always recommend is Google Postmaster Tools, just because they're so good at it. Usually, if they're seeing your email a certain way, then most other providers are going to see it about the same way. So that's the one that we go straight to the source and see what they're telling you about that.
Yeah. And it's 100% free, which is always good. So you just got to sign up, and as long as you're hitting those metrics that they require, like at least 1,000 messages a day, then you should be seeing some feedback on those sends for your domain, for IP reputation, for spam hits, all that fun stuff. So, or your spam percentages. Yeah.
Nice. All right, we got just a few more guys, and then we got to let our host go. But looks like we got one from Jesse. What is the best way to deal with soft bounces?
Well, I guess determining what those soft bounces are, is it because they do tell you a lot. They tell you, hey, we can't find this recipient, or hey, your domain or IP doesn't have the correct reputation just yet, or come back later. We've seen even stuff like that's, hey, grab a glass of wine, we'll be here a while. It really kind of depends. So it's really just depending on whatever that information is, taking back and just applying it to your send. If it's they can't find a user, or the user's not in the data table, something like that, just reviewing your list and making sure that, did they misspell Gmail, or Gmail, as we see, or yahoo.com, that happens a bunch, validating your list and making sure it's good.
Yeah, actually, I was going to take it from your own words, Eric. A lot of times what we'll see is those deferrals, those temporary bounces, those temporary failures. They will be something that is a warning sign, something that says like, hey, you're doing something incorrectly, something's going on. And a lot of times it just means slow down, right? Most of the time it means like, hey, slow down, make sure that you're sending to engaged people, make sure that there isn't any bad addresses on your list, like you just mentioned. Cleaning some of those up is going to be super, super helpful. But then also really making a conscious effort to just not blast so many emails out. Like sometimes it is just going to be a temporary thing. I know this is one of those things that we've just seen happen. Yahoo will tend to defer messages like fairly quickly because they don't know who you are as a sender, so we'll get a lot of those temporaries happening right away because you're hitting them at volume and they don't know who you are. Like they just want to know you. Let them love you.
We know you're good people. We know you're good people.
So you gotta get there. So it is, if you're seeing those, just slow it down a little bit. One of my suggestions is always like, if you start seeing a lot of those with Yahoo, it doesn't mean that they hate you or they don't want you. It just means they haven't established anything for you yet. So slow down a little bit. Slow down that warm-up process. Sometimes instead of increasing day over day, like slow down for a few days and don't increase. Like send some consistency there. And then you can keep going because it'll help get through as long as what you're sending is good and engaged, email, like it'll get there.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. This is our last one. Okay. So from Jorge, I get it for commercial campaigns, also marketing campaigns, but how do you warm up a transactional system that only sends mails in response of a transaction? Mails cannot be retained or held in a schedule. So pertaining transactional messaging.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the biggest thing there and the biggest variable that I know is not part of the question, but it's what you need to consider. And that's it. Why is the reason for the warm up, right? So, if you've had a web store, then unless people are just like bombarding you all of a sudden within that web store because it's a new web store with a new domain or a new at least sending domain that's going to be doing that, that might be the one outlier that is really, really difficult to solve for. And you really should talk to somebody about what those variables are, right? Otherwise, if you're just moving from one ISP to another, how much volume is that going to be? How much volume are you taking on every hour, every day? Because most of the time with transactional traffic, it's going to be at a load of volume that it'll do almost an organic warm up because those messages, for that exact reason, right? They're not going out all at once. You're not hitting any ISP with 1,000 messages every minute. You're hitting them with a few hundred an hour, and that's exactly what most warm up plans look like. So usually switching over, flipping the switch is going to be okay in those scenarios, but you really, really have to look at that volume as the variable. If you go over a certain amount, then it's probably gonna be problematic. But at that point,
you're more than likely going to be wanting to do a couple of IPs or something else to help balance that out, right? And there's different things in different scenarios that can help out with that. But again, it's hard to answer that question without all the variables around that.
Yeah.
So, but consider that, like, right, how much volume are you sending? And then the fact that most of the time, those smaller volumes an hour are exactly what you want.
Yep.
Cool. Well, that concludes the answering questions with Jason Voorhees. Guys, I'll see you later.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, maybe it was
man, and he's out in a puff of smoke.
gone.
Right on. Well, everybody, thank you so much. I really appreciate y'all hanging out with us today. Continue looking for us. We're going to be putting more episodes of Emails Not Dead out. Jonathan, thank you for your time today. I know we got a jet here, but thank you again for all your questions. So much thanks. Stay safe, everybody. Look for us wherever you listen to podcasts, and y'all have a great and safe rest of your week. Thanks, y'all.
Yeah.
Bye.